At the end of the last episode, we found Francis Ford Coppola deep in the 1980s in a precarious position. The gangster epic, The Cotton Club, proved that the director couldn't simply resurrect his career by undertaking a project with the Godfather vibe. This third and final episode focuses on Coppola's career during the second half of the 1980s and how his output in the following 3 decades shaped the trajectory of his career and legacy as a filmmaker. So once more, grab your popcorn bucket, settle in, and join me in the epic conclusion of Coppola's chapter in the Italian-American trilogy. In 1986, Coppola was appointed as a replacement for Jonathan Demme, another of Roger Corman's protégés, to helm Peggy Sue Got Married, a time travel comedy starring Kathleen Turner and the zaniest combo ever assembled on celluloid, Nicolas Cage and Jim Carrey. Francis Ford Coppola directing a romantic comedy comes out of left field, but upon closer analysis, the movie's subtext is very much in line with the recurring themes present in Coppola's filmography. In its essence, underneath the comedic bits, Peggy Sue is a story about family, but most importantly, a reflection on aging. The movie starts with Peggy Sue attending her high school reunion. As she grapples with the ups and downs of her present life, including a recent divorce from her husband Charlie, played by Nicolas Cage, Peggy Sue faints during the reunion and wakes up in 1960, back in her senior year of high school. Suddenly inhabiting her teenage self, Peggy Sue navigates the challenges and dynamics of high school with the knowledge of her future. She must contend with her relationships with family and friends, including her younger sister and her best friend Carol Heath. As Peggy Sue relives her past, she faces the complexities of her romantic entanglements, particularly with her high school sweetheart and future ex-husband Charlie. Put it simply, Peggy Sue is not a mere comedy. It's a movie about a woman who gets to relive the past and reassess the choices she made with the benefit of hindsight. It is also a self-reflecting portrayal of 46-year-old Francis Ford Coppola, taking stock of where he is in life, a theme that would guide the rest of his releases in the 1980s. While not as visually grand as some of Coppola's other movies, Peggy Sue Got Married still showcases a certain level of innovative cinematography. The film employs creative techniques to differentiate between the past and present, contributing to the overall visual storytelling. It's just unfortunate that despite being conceived before Back to the Future, released in 1985, the title would end up being released a year after the Michael J. Fox starring vehicle, inevitably inviting comparisons. Still, the title would end up grossing over $40 million in the US alone on an $18 million budget, making it the director's first box office success since The Outsiders, released 3 years earlier. What can I say about Peggy Sue? Those expecting a laugh-out-loud comedy and a collection of outrageous, over-the-top moments courtesy of both Cage and Carrey will be severely disappointed. Peggy Sue Got Married is a melancholical appraisal of life and our choices. There are no improvised skateboard chases or incestuous relationships here. It's a title that owes more to It's a Wonderful Life than to the rose-tinted glasses conventions of time travel comedy. A different brand of nostalgia that is bound to leave you more drained than emotionally full. The director's next project, The Somber Gardens of Stone, was released a year after, in 1987. Whilst many see the movie as a companion to Apocalypse Now, telling the story about what happened back home during the war, this was a particularly uninspiring production. There is little information available about the pre-production process and development of Gardens of Stone. It was most likely another paycheck directorial effort that resulted from TriStar, the studio behind the project, trying to capitalize on the audience's newfound interest in the Vietnam War post Oliver Stone's Platoon. and Coppola viewing the source material as an opportunity for creative redemption and a chance to demonstrate his storytelling skills in a more conventional and accessible manner, as well as offering the potential for a reunion with his frequent co-star, James Caan. The movie's production was marked by the death of Coppola's son, Giancarlo Coppola, in a speedboating accident, which may partially explain the lackluster direction and the potential pain of dealing with the movie's main theme, the loss of innocence and the casualties of war that claimed the lives of so many American youngsters. Set in the Fort Benning training facility during the war era, the film follows the lives of the soldiers and their families who are deeply affected by the conflict. Sergeant Clell Hazard, played by James Caan, a battle-hardened soldier and skilled trainer, is tasked with preparing new recruits for the war. His passion for his job is evident as he imparts his knowledge and discipline to the young soldiers, among them Private Jackie Willow, played by D.B. Sweeney, an aspiring writer with dreams of becoming a war correspondent. As their bonds strengthen, the film delves into their struggles, camaraderie, and the challenges of preparing for combat. At the heart of the story is Hazard's complex relationship with Samantha Davis, played by Angelica Houston, an anti-war activist and journalist who lost her brother in the conflict. Their differing views on the war create a compelling dynamic, exploring the broader societal divide and personal conflicts that characterize the period. I can't really defend this movie as I found it kinda dull. The title would end up performing poorly with critics and audiences alike and aggravated Coppola's financial situation. But there were brighter days ahead for the Italian-American director. During the production of Captain EO, George Lucas suggested that the director should revive his dream project, Tucker, believing it to be the best film Francis had ever been involved with. It had been a lifelong dream of Coppola to helm a project about the life of automobile entrepreneur Preston Tucker. His first concept for the movie dates back to his school days at UCLA. In 1973, whilst filming The Godfather Part 2, Coppola was keen to proceed with the project, and in 1976 he purchased the rights from the Tucker estate. Marlon Brando was the first name associated with the lead role, with Jack Nicholson and Burt Reynolds being two other names shortlisted. Coppola wanted to shoot a movie as an experimental piece, a dark kind of musical inspired by both Japanese kabuki theater and the mother of all biopics, Citizen Kane. But in 1988, Coppola couldn't afford to gamble anymore, and so he settled with a more conventional vision. But conventions didn't get in the way of the director creating and delivering something that was true and personal. A biopic with the epic scale of Apocalypse Now, dealing with the grand concept of the American dream like The Godfather did, and featuring the optimism and hope of One from the Heart. Tucker, a man in his dream, tells the inspiring and ultimately tragic story of Preston Tucker and his attempt to revolutionize the automobile industry in the post-World War II America. Preston Tucker, played by Jeff Bridges, is an ambitious and innovative entrepreneur who dreams of creating a revolutionary car that will disrupt the monopoly created by Detroit's Big Three. In 1945, Tucker unveiled his vision for the Car of Tomorrow, a sleek and futuristic vehicle designed with cutting-edge features such as disc brakes, seat belts, and a pop-out safety windshield. Tucker faces numerous challenges as he strives to turn his dream into reality. He encounters resistance from the big three automakers, General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, who perceive this innovation as a threat to their dominance. Undeterred, Tucker forms the Tucker Corporation and begins the process of building his revolutionary car. To fund his venture, Tucker attracts investors, including the enthusiastic financier Abe Carrots, played by Martin Landau. The company gains momentum, and Tucker's vision captures the imagination of the public. However, the challenges escalate as the Securities and Exchange Commission becomes suspicious of Tucker's business practices, leading to legal troubles and allegations of stock fraud. If the story of a visionary man who attempts to disrupt the natural order of things and the powers in place in an industry with a revolutionary take on an existing product sounds familiar to you, then you're absolutely on top of things. Preston Tucker's story is the story of Francis Ford Coppola. The story of Francis Ford Coppola during the 1980s, to be precise. And this is why this title is great. It's a labor of love, the first in 6 years for the veteran director. It's also another personal reflection that concludes, much like Tucker's venture, with a victory of the creative spirit. A man who won't let the system change him. It was not the movie he would have made at the height of his powers in the mid to late 1970s, but it's a great one nonetheless. Witty and light, yet powerful and meaningful. Truly moving. Unfortunately, critics didn't see it that way, poking holes in the narrative arc and criticizing Tucker's story. The movie ended up receiving mixed to positive reviews, and the box office wasn't kind to the title, with Tucker earning $19 million against a $24 million budget. My thoughts on Tucker? I think it's a great movie. It's an inspiring take that offers a critique of corporate power and the challenges faced by innovators who challenge established industries. A film that elicits empathy from the audience as they witness Tucker's struggles, making it a compelling and emotionally engaging cinematic experience. It's an underdog tale where Coppola masterfully captures the struggle of an individual against the powers in place. The truly hardest thing about this movie is to remain indifferent whilst watching it. As a new decade was about to start, Coppola was still going strong, but the financial woes that had plagued him for 8 years now were still haunting him. So did Coppola ever recover? Well, yes and no. You could say that he partially recovered. After the financial underperformance of Tucker, his sister and frequent collaborator Talia Shire urged him to take on Paramount's offer and direct The Godfather Part 3, a long gestating project. He agreed even if he was heavily restricted on both time and funds by Paramount. The movie opened to decent box office results but mixed critical reception and ended up earning 7 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director, the first Oscar nods for Coppola in 11 years. That same year, Coppola filed for bankruptcy a third time when his studio Zoetrope Corp and Zoetrope Productions listed debts of $28.9 million. To clear the debt, he agreed to make Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1992, his biggest commercial hit since The Godfather in 1972. Sadly, he then directed the 1996 stinker Jack, which was actually the first Coppola-directed movie I ever watched, and the much better received, but poorly performer, The Rainmaker. The director then embarked on a 10-year hiatus before returning to direct smaller-scale projects in what can only be considered a period of amateurism and experimentation, something Coppola always wanted to do and succeeded in doing. Though he would never return to the heights of the 1970s, he ended up pursuing a Sinatra doctrine, doing things his way. The ever-entrepreneurial Coppola is bound to return this year with another passion project of his, Megalopolis. The self-financed $100 million plus project has been on his mind for over 40 years. In what could potentially be the director's triumphant return to mainstream success and accolades, the final verdict on Coppola's recovery is still out in the open. I might very well need to revisit this video and add a more up-to-date epilogue. Make a stream again, Coppola. To all of you out there, thanks for watching.